Hello, I'm your host, Jean-Paul Baran, President of Focus on the Family Canada. Welcome to The Thriving Family, a Focus on the Family Canada podcast. This is the space where family, faith, and culture intersect. You can enjoy the Thriving Family podcast ad-free without any interruptions, thanks to generous donors who support our ministry. In this season of the podcast, we're talking about God's full life for you. Along with sound bites on marriage, parenting, and life challenges, we're bringing intimate conversations with leaders from a wide range of ministry backgrounds and life experiences, who have all generously taken the time to share their heart with you. If you like what you hear, be sure to rate the episode wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to check out each episode notes for related resources and for how to support the Thriving Family podcast. Today it's my great pleasure to introduce Arlene Pellicane. Arlene is a speaker, author, and host of Happy Home Podcast. Her goal is to bring more happiness in your home, more closeness to God, your family and friends, and more purpose along with less screen time. She's appeared on The Today Show, Wall Street Journal, Focus on the Family with Jim Daly, and more. Arlene earned a BA from Biola University and a master's from Regent University. Before becoming a speaker and author, she served as a feature reporter for the 700 Club and associate director for Turning Point with David Jeremiah. Arlene's happy place is with her husband James of more than 25 years and their 3 children. They currently live in San Diego. Arlene and I had a dynamic conversation about parenting, navigating screen time, and what it's like collaborating with Gary Chapman. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. Well, welcome today to this podcast that we're doing, and we're here with Arlene. I actually had the opportunity to meet with Arlene at a Focus on the Family event, and right away I was like instantly connected to you, Arlene. And so thanks so much for being here with us.
It's so much fun to be with you, Jean-Paul. And it's exciting when we actually get to meet in person as well. That is fun. And our families got to
really
meet. So
great.
that was a very special thing. Yes.
It was really awesome. I really connected with your husband. For our listeners, we were at a Focus event in a ski hill, and your husband has the same kind of heart as I do. We took the ski straps off our ski poles, and we're free to ride, if you will.
Right. That's great.
And your story about connecting with phones and stuff, the highlight for me is that your daughter got up and spoke, and you guys walked the walk. Like it is the truth all the way through your family. What was a highlight for you from that event?
That was so special to when you're in a room of like-minded people, right? And anywhere you turn, you might meet someone and you say, wow, you love the family like I love the family. My goodness, your business sounds so interesting. Tell me more about that. Whoa, you have adult children. I'm about to have adult children. Please help me. So I think just being able to turn around and meet people and find community so quickly and be able to connect with people so quickly, because I think in this world, it's hard. It takes you a long time. You might go to church many, many Sundays before you really connect with someone and feel like, oh, I want to have dinner with this person. I want to continue the conversation with this person. So I think it's an encouragement for all of us. Try to go to events where there are like-minded people there, because it's a lot easier to meet friends. And not only that, like you were saying, my kids were there and there were other teenagers there too. So that made it even doubly fun. And the teenagers, they were playing like hide and go seek, like at this
Right.
like
Yes, my
event
daughters
place,
were
right?
there. Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, you guys are playing hide and go seek at this event. I don't know if you're supposed to be doing that, but apparently the staff had no problem with it and they had a great time.
Yeah, that was a highlight for our daughter, our youngest. Sorry, one of our daughters who was there. Our youngest or oldest, from our oldest was there, and she's 19 at the time, and they're playing hide and seek in the hotel. And I was like, the last time we played hide and seek was when you were like 10, and we asked her to play, and she's like, I'm too old for that.
Right.
And then it was this event where people are like-mindedness. You're absolutely right. You peel back right away these layers of protection we put on. At least I do. And my wife as well, even at church, there's like, it takes time. You really want to be careful on how you invest into a friendship. And at these events that Focus puts on, it's kind of like, where everybody is on a mindset where God comes first in everything that they do. And then it's just like, yeah, I want to learn more. Like you said, tell me more about your family or your business
Yes.
or, the success that you have, not financially, but family wise. And
Yeah.
I want to learn more about how to navigate the seasons that we're going through as a family. And then you cling on to somebody who's gone through that season. It's like, you have a really great connection and relationship with Focus on the Family. We'll say globally now that you're international with us here in
Woo,
Canada.
go Canada.
Yeah, go Canada. Particularly with your collaborations with Gary Chapman with the books of Screen Kids and Grandparenting Screen Kids. How did that relationship with the ministry first begin?
That was something so special to me because I grew up listening to Focus on the Family, on the radio in my car. My kids are now 21, 18, and 15. And so I'd be listening to the broadcast and thinking like, wow, I need to learn this, so I'm taking notes and I'm learning all these things. And then through the years, as I've written books, it was, like a dream, of course, to be like, whoa, what if I ever went to Focus on the Family? That would be like amazing, right? So, I mean, the long and short answer is how God is so good to set these things up, and so Dr. Gary Chapman and I wrote a book together, and it was the first one came out in 2014, it was called Growing Up Social. So even in 2014, we were talking about how why are families they're around their phones instead of with each other, they're not talking to each other as much as they used to, and we wanted to address that and boy, we could see what has happened since that 2014 time, but that's what introduced me to Focus was they had us on for for that book, Growing Up Social, and, when you have a co-author like Dr. Gary Chapman, who is the author of the 5 Love Languages, that was a easy ask, right, for them to ask him, and I got to kinda come along, and I will tell you, Jean-Paul, when you go into the studio and then they have as you enter the building, they'll have your name, of who's recording that day, and it
Right.
would say, like,
Yeah.
Dr. Gary Chapman and Arlene Pellicane. You take, like, 1,000 pictures there 'cause you're like, "Wow,
You
this is
send them to
really
all
neat."
your family and
That's right.
friends. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
and then
really
they've been so kind through the years when, the different books that have come out, whether they're Making Marriage Easier, Parents Rising, that, we'll come back and we'll talk about those things.
Yeah, that's really special, and all the books that you have and co-wrote are accessible here for those that are listening, and we'll have a link attached, so that we can, our listeners, you guys can get those books through Focus Canada. Yeah, meeting somebody like Gary Chapman or any of these kind of like gurus, it's always, I find a little intimidating, and then you get to sit down with them
Yeah,
and the intimidation is gone because they just have a love for God and they just wanna share it, and all of a sudden, you're just like, "I'm talking to another brother or sister in
right.
Christ,"
That's
which
for
is really
sure.
incredible.
Yes. Dr. Gary Chapman is just about the kindest, most considerate, humble person you'll ever meet. So he's one of those that you'll meet and you'll think, wow, he's even kinder and more attentive in person than I thought he would be. He really is the real deal.
Oh, that's awesome. I haven't had the pleasure to sit down with them over a coffee yet, but I look forward to
Yes.
that coming one of these days. I wanted to share, or ask, you have a huge platform, right now in your show, the Happy Home podcast and your media experiences. And if you could pull back the curtain a little bit for me and our listeners of what was the void that you observed, then when you worked to help fill through the gap that
Yeah.
you had at work.
Yes. I, by nature, like to encourage people. So so I was the cheerleader in high school, but I wasn't very talented. So it's not like I could jump so well or I could, toss someone. I just had a big smile on my face. So I think, and that's kind of what I saw in this marriage and family and parenting space that so many people are just kind of barely making it, right? Every day is a big challenge. Every day is I'm fighting with my kids. My spouse and I are not getting along. And I just thought, wow, this is really an area where we could be, as your podcast says, thriving. But why aren't we? So I really wanted to speak encouragement into this space of how can we prioritize the marriage again in a family? How can we have children and actually enjoy them? What are the keys that we can learn so that we actually enjoy being with our kids? Because I can honestly say, our home isn't about like, oh, let's just make the kids happy all the time so we can get along. No, that's not how our home runs. The home is, Hey, we're going to honor God, which means we obey God first. You honor us as parents. We are the leaders in the home, but we're going to nurture you. We're going to love you. We're going to talk in your love languages as much as possible, etc. And when those things are happening and God's spirit is moving throughout the home, it really is a joy. It's not like we're perfect. I'm not saying that we're not perfect. It's not like you don't have problems, but that's what I wanted to pass along, this attitude that this is good. Being married is good. Having children is good. If we're having trouble, there are things we can learn to get out of these problems, and the Holy Spirit helps us throughout. So that really has been that motivation. If I could just encourage one more family today to say, "Hey, we can do better than this. Complex problems don't always have complex solutions. Sometimes it's a little easier than you think."
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head for me of uh, being parents and being leaders. As
Yeah.
parents, we are leaders. I'm a parent of two daughters, and Susan and I we are friends with our children, but we're not their best friends. We are
Yeah.
also there to guide them, and when they ask questions and push back, we're there to lead them, and they might not like the answers, but that's okay because that's our role as parents.
Yeah.
Just like our relationship with our Heavenly Father, there's times that I feel God is leading me in a direction where I'm like, "I don't know about that," and then I submit to my Heavenly Father, and I listen, and I'm guided by Him, and I try to put that, at least Susan and I, with our children. And you also touched on the platform. I mean, you have such a incredible voice for families and the platform that you have, and you use it so well. And I really encourage you to continue doing that. And one of the things is a lot of families that I come across and speak with and listen to is they feel like they're all alone, like they're in this battle with their children
Yeah.
or even with their spouse. And then at times I hear like, oh, we love the Lord and I shouldn't be battling with my kids or shouldn't be battling with my spouse. And I feel like, not to say battling, but that's okay that it's not perfect all the time. And if you could speak into that to our listeners, just to encouragement that it is okay not to always get along.
Yes, and to realize that, wait a minute, that whole idea C.S. Lewis said, when you find someone that says, "Me too," like you really like that and it resonates with you, and know that when you're in that spot, the enemy will tell you, "You're the only one that's like this. You have the hardest marriage. Your children are doing this, and nobody else's children are doing this, just yours, or yours are the worst," right? And you tend to feel isolated, and then you don't wanna speak up and say anything because you don't wanna have a bad response. And so I think to realize, wait a minute, no, I am not the only one. There are, in a room full of parents, there are probably 70% of those parents who are struggling with the exact same thing that you are. So to first of all realize, wow, it's not just me. And then if we could just start with, Lord, I need your help. I think a humility in parenting in our marriages, and honestly, like going on your knees, maybe that's part of your tradition or not part of your tradition, but that physical act, sometimes physically, if you just do something different, it will tell your brain, hey, we're doing something different. And so I have found just this very short habit of just getting on my knees within, let's say, the first 5 minutes of waking up. And I just get on my knees and say, Lord, this is your day. Your will be done, not my will, etc. And so for you, it may be, I'm just going to get on my knees and say, God, I don't know what to do in my marriage. I don't know what to do with my children. I'm asking for your help. I'm humbling myself, saying, I don't have the answers, Lord. Will you please guide me? Will you please help me? And then you stand up. So it doesn't take long. I mean, it might take little, that literally took maybe 20 seconds. And as you stand up, and you walk forward, you are like in faith saying, okay, Lord, now I am expecting you're going to help me. You're going to help me. And then honestly, that position, that posture of saying, I'm ready to change. I'm open to change. Because usually we're very much like, it's my kid's fault. It's technology's fault. It's this crazy world's fault. It's my spouse's fault. Like, certainly I bear no responsibility in what is happening in my life. And yet it is our part. That's the only part that we can honestly work on. So I think it does begin with us saying, Lord, soften my heart towards my kids and my spouse. Lord, help me to serve them. something I talk about in Making Marriage Easier, that one of the things that really helps if you just ask, and this isn't about being a doormat, this isn't about losing yourself, this isn't about letting someone walk all over you. This is about your attitude is like, how can I help you today? Is there anything I can do to make your life easier today for your spouse or your child? And it's the heart posture, right? Of how can I help you today? Because when you got married, you weren't thinking like, let me be as selfish as I can my whole life with this person. No, you were like, I love you. I'm for you. I want to help you. So keeping that alive in marriage. And then in parenting, that's a little tricky because sometimes we can overhelp, right? We're tying their shoelaces and they're in third grade and we're packing their lunch and they're in eighth grade and we're driving them anywhere where they could get a license and drive themselves. So I am
Doing
not
their
talking.
homework is another
Yes,
one. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm not talking about over helping your kids. That's not what I'm talking about, but the attitude of, "Hey, how can I listen better to you today? Is there anything that I see you need help with a skill for the future? I need to train you up in that." So I think when instead of being this passive victim of my life is so hard, change it to, Lord, change my attitude and then look for that place where you can serve. And it's counterintuitive, but as you help your spouse, help your children in that spirit of Christ and love, you will start to come alive again, and you will get more out of that than you are giving out.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, yes, that's you're hitting
Yeah.
it all for me personally. There's days where I go through as the humdrum, grumpy
Yes.
dad or grumpy spouse,
Yeah.
and I'm blaming it all on my kids or my surroundings. It's all Susan's fault. It has nothing to do with me because I'm perfect, which is absolutely not true. And it's not until I actually spend time with my God, my Savior, and humble myself and ask for help. And then when I receive that, oh my goodness, it's like hitting a reset button.
Yes.
And I'm all of a sudden like, okay, how can I make a difference and help Susan where there's a need that she is feeling like the heaviness of I should laugh at the heaviness of being married to me. The heaviness of parents and living in a very complex world
Yeah.
and, being feel pulled in every direction. What can I do to make a little difference? And those little things, like what I've done in our house is Susan doesn't, like washing her car, and she's always like, "Oh, it's such a mess." And so I wash her car, and she's like, "Thank you." And
Yes.
I'm like, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's
Yeah.
huge to her.
Yes.
Um, and it's just instead of sitting on my phone or watching sports is what I usually do, I take 10 minutes to wash her car, and she just, like she's over the moon for it. So it's those little
Yes.
tiny things that gets me out of my own head, that helps in my own marriage. I feel like I'm in a counseling session, so I apologize to all those who feel
We'll
like
do
you're
it.
talking
We'll
about
do
my
it
marriage.
together. We'll do
Yeah.
it together.
We're not alone. I
Yeah.
have not met someone who, has been in a marriage, that has felt overwhelmed, and to our listeners out there, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We all go through that, and the trick is being in communication with your spouse and with your kids. Another one, just to touch on what you're saying, is I have never felt, uh, more joy when I've asked my kids and listen and then being part of what they're doing in their life and they feel better. They feel like, hey, their dad is actually participating
Yeah.
in what they're doing. One of the things in your books, and you talk a lot about, is parenting and screen time.
Yes.
That's like a hot topic for all
Right.
parents. And since your two books that you wrote with Gary Chapman that were published in 2020 about the digital landscape that has drastically changed, can you speak into that for our listeners of what it's
Yeah.
like just managing screen time with kids and how you've done it, which is an amazing story.
We are seeing more and more research that's showing us, right, that, okay, wait a minute. We have this huge spike in depression and anxiety and suicide in teenagers, in kids. We see it beginning in 2010 and climbing, climbing, climbing. What is happening? And we also know that, okay, that's when social media came, when gaming came, when everything became, and what it is it because it's so portable. Right now, it's not like, oh, I have to go into my house and go into a certain room and then log on to my screen. It's like, wait, this thing is in my pocket, like all day long, like a slot machine calling to me, like, come on, pull the lever and see what you get, right? Pull the lever and see who liked your photo. Pull the lever and see if you can get a better video game score. I mean, it's everything a kid wants to do. I mean, and a parent, an adult, we have trouble, right? We will
Oh,
be the first to admit,
absolutely.
right, John Paul, that we're picking it up all the time. So I think we have to understand, wait a minute, this is not a neutral device that can be used for good and bad, because it can, like your child can be listening to sermons. They could be learning another language. They could be FaceTiming grandma. Like any of those things could happen on a device, and that's why we as parents get them. But if you take your child, right, at 4 or 5 touch points during the day and ask, "What are you doing on that phone?" I'm pretty sure they're doing none of those things, which I just said. So we do have to live in this real world of understanding, the research by Jonathan Haidt in The Anxious Generation. I would refer people to that, showing that what we have done is we've replaced childhood from a play-based childhood to a device-based childhood. And you can
Right.
imagine just physically, that's a huge change for a kid. You get to sit there still instead of running, jumping, playing, learning, right? Emotionally, why don't you sit alone with a device for 6 hours a day instead of going out to play with people? So we have to realize as parents, wait a minute, this is not healthy for kids. And just like smoking of years ago, when we understood, wow, this is not good for people, we're going to have these non-smoking zones and actually stop smoking, that kind of thing. So our message really is to parents is it's not of shame. It's not of guilt. You pretty much are in the boat with everybody else, but it is showing, wait a minute, you don't have to be on this boat if you don't want to be. And your kids could be different in a good way, in a healthy way. So be aware there are addictive technology. Social media is built on it. Video games, most video games are built on it, of wanting to come back. Their only goal is that your child spends more time on that game, more time on that social media. That's their goal. That's not your goal. Your goal isn't like, oh, let me raise my child so that when they grow up, they'll look at a screen 8 hours a day, every day of their life. That's not your goal. So we have to understand we are in competition with that. And the devil, obviously, is using social media because, Wall Street Journal was on TikTok as a 13-year-old and they got hundreds of videos within 10 minutes for, diets and appearance and suicide and challenges to vandalize your school, a trans ideology, all sorts of things that are being fed to our children. Their kids aren't looking for them, but they're being fed these things. So for us, we just knew like, okay, you're going to have your whole life as adults to be looking at screens. So while you're growing up here in San Diego, California, in public school, you will not have social media. You will not play video games at home. If you want to go to a friend's house, that's fine, but you're not going to play at home. And you will not have a phone until you're at least a senior in high school. So this is what we kind of call the platinum plan. This is like the we're just going up on this one.
To give it contents for our Canadian listeners, senior in high school is grade 11
Yeah.
or grade 12? For in
For
the
us,
city.
it's, grade 12, so
Grade
it's their
12, okay,
last year
yeah.
of school before going to university.
So you implemented those rules with your
Yes.
children and they, how were they with that?
Yes, you can go happyhomeuniversity.com has a little documentary we did during COVID time because they were trapped and they had to do it, of me asking, "What's it like being in high school, elementary school, junior high without those things?" So you can look, but believe it or not, Sean Paul, because since they were kids, they kinda knew, like, "See that kid over there? They're not, like, playing sports or doing anything because they're just looking at that iPad. Do you see?" So they kind of knew from a young age, okay, we're different, but we kinda like being different because
Right.
once your children play the sports, get into drawing, love animals, whatever it is that your kid really enjoys, and you're encouraging that, they're doing that, then they see like, "Oh, I don't really wanna just sit in my room. I wanna go do those things." And that's how our kids were. They grew up doing things, being with people, liking that. So they knew in high school, right? But they knew, okay, we are not gonna get those things, and they didn't even ask because they knew you met my husband, you knew they knew the answer would be no. All day long, it would be no, so why even bother? And they really did get to the point where their friends would say, "You know what? You're really lucky." And my daughter was like, "What?" And they said, "You're lucky because you're not addicted to this phone like I am."
Yeah.
And that really stopped my daughter in middle school of thinking, "Wow," she's probably 13 years old, and this kid is saying this to her, and that really made her think, "Wow, like they actually are jealous of me because I'm not addicted to this." So
Yeah.
really think of what you are giving your child freedom to do instead of like, "Oh, you're so awful and restrictive." And you have to be a bit cheerful about this, about the no technology, and also make sure they're competent in other things.
Right.
And we definitely are pro technology. They can come, they could edit a podcast, they could 3D a Nerf gun. They can use technology, but just not social media, video games, and having something in their pocket.
Yeah, that's such an inspirational story, and that's why I think I resonated with you guys right when I met because, our daughter was there and heard your daughter speak how she didn't have a phone, and now you're sharing that again, and I swear my daughters thought they were the only kids on the planet. They're like, "Okay, there's somebody else that had to go through this,"
Totally.
and,
Exactly.
one of the things that you touch on is engaging. So the social media platform is trying to engage with everybody, not just teenagers, but with
Yeah.
adults as well. And really, God wants to engage through community, but face to face community. And we're doing this podcast, and you're down in San Diego, up in Langley in Canada, and that's a positive thing from technology. Uh, but God didn't create us to be on screens and be
Yeah.
away, and we're not getting that community. You're not building the friendships. And one of the things that I really believe in, and I'm sure this is why I worked in your family and with our listeners to resonate with this, is as parents, we need to lead by example. And so as long as we're not on our phones all the time, our kids will see that. I have a simple saying of monkey see, monkey do in our
Yeah.
house. If my kids see Susan and I being very intentional of reading our Bible and exercising and eating dinner together and not being on our phones all the time or even on a screen all the time,
Yeah.
our kids are going to do the same thing. And lo and behold, they read their Bible, they read, they're avid readers, and we have dinner almost every night. As they get older, it's becoming a little more
Yes.
challenging
Yeah.
with different university schedules, um, but we're together doing these things because this is their normal.
Yes.
And when we have guests over, we've had occasionally similar to your story of someone saying, "Oh, I'm glad you're not addicted." We have these dinners, and we have a child saying, "That's weird that your mom and dad eat together." And my kids were like, "What do you mean that's weird? That's Isn't that everybody do that?"
Right.
And so it's like if we normalize and
Yes.
kind of control our own environment, uh, technology doesn't become a huge burden. And you're so right, it hits on addiction, and it's not just all the algorithms that brings you back. Research is now showing even the lighting on the phone is addicting. So the light that you're craving, whatever light that
Yeah.
is you're wanting to turn that light on, and it stimulates your mind. Um, I wanted to touch on about, as technology continues to change, how do you incorporate the change now, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, and how to give guidance and emotional support towards that?
Yeah, it's gonna be huge, right? And in one way, it's like, "Wow, this is amazing." Like, it is amazing. Like, you think, I grew up with cartoons like the Jetsons where they're talking like we're talking right now, and it's like, "Wait a minute, we're gonna live in an actual era where that cartoon comes to life, where we have all these things like the Jetsons." So in one way, it's wondrous and amazing. But I think for the developing mind of a child, right? Your preschooler, your baby, your preschooler, elementary school, and I would even say all the way until up till college. Like that child is gonna the less they're doing with artificial intelligence, and I understand they've been in AI a lot already because that's what all these algorithms have been using. But the more they can stay away from the chatbot that's talking to them. So, things like Replica, character AI. I mean, it sounds so neat and it's something that would sound so wonderful. Look, I can be whatever character I want. And look, I can make up characters and I can actually talk to these people. I could talk to Einstein. Like, doesn't that seem super neat? And that's kind of how we as parents will get hooked in. Oh, my child's going to be talking to Albert Einstein every day. He's going to get really smart. But we've already seen statistically the way people used AI last year. I forgot what the number one use was, like some kind of basically an information use. And then the second most was for relationship, for conversation.
Oh, really?
Yes, and this year, they've already shown in 2024 that basically using AI as a companion, so for conversation, that has become the number one use of AI, at least in the United States. And so it's like, wait a minute, we do not want our kids for it to become normal for them just, oh, they have a question about like a boy they just saw, right? It's embarrassing to talk about that with my parents. So I'm just going to talk to AI and ask them, like, I like this boy, what should I do? And the AI is going to tell them what to do. Like, that's going to become more and more of a thing where kids and teenagers are going to think, well, that's awkward to talk to my parents about that, to talk to my friend about that, my teacher, my mentor, my youth pastor, whatever. I'm just going to ask AI about that. And it's just so much easier. And if kids are accustomed to texting, which they are, then having this conversation with this chatbot who, can you imagine, has all the quote unquote knowledge of the world. So they do have answers, they do have advice, they never grow tired. They could talk for hours and they're never going to say, I got to go do some laundry now, right? So they have all the time in the world. They remember everything your child has said and done. They, through the algorithms, they know what they're interested in. They know who their favorite sports team is and that they're allergic to cats. And so it feels very personal for the child. Like, this chatbot, like, kind of knows me more than my parents, more than my teacher, more than my friend. And this is, I think, Jean Paul, something very dangerous that we as parents need to be. And that's all the more reason to delay the smartphone in the hand, because you just don't know what are they doing in those downtimes, because we don't want our kids to get used to talking to AI as a friend or as a counselor, because they could that whole time be talking to the wonderful counselor, to Jesus, right? But they're
Absolutely.
getting so used to talking to the chatbot instead. So I think that poses a very big risk, AI, in taking even more of your child's attention and soul by becoming a companion, not just like this little information, not just this little social media, but like a companion that keeps all their information and encourages them and says, wow, you're an amazing human being. What a wonderful question you just asked. Where a parent might say, I've answered that question 3 times. Why are you still asking
Go
me
clean
that?
your room and do the dishes.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, maybe you're hearing and you're like, okay, Arlene, my child has a phone. I'm not doing this crazy plan that you did. And I totally get that. Most people won't. So maybe it looks like, hey, we collect the phones at night so that our kids can go to sleep. Or I have a friend, and her name's Carrie Pomeroli. She was just on my podcast, and her daughter does not have social media, but she does have a phone. And in the home, they keep it on the kitchen counter. So then if the daughter wants to use the phone, then she knows she has to go to the kitchen counter to use the phone. And she basically said when it's not private, like, she doesn't want to use it that much. So
Right.
things like that, to try to, just like a coach, when you learn new information, you can go back to your child and say, I am so sorry I've let you play this video game, but I've really noticed through the months it's taking so much time away from your schoolwork, your time with your siblings, your time with your sport, etc. Like, so we're going to put a pause on it for a month. And so there's something you can do. And of course, your kids aren't going to say like, yay, I'm so glad you listened to the Focus on the Family Thriving podcast. Whoopee. They're going to be mad. And that's the part we talked about earlier, that we're not their friend, is not our first role right now. It is protector, guide, counselor, to let them know this is unhealthy. While you're in our home, we're going to keep you from it. And they won't say thank you now, but maybe in a month they might be like, you
Oh,
know what, I kind
absolutely.
of do feel better. They might come back to you and admit, like, that was kind of good that you took that from me, mom and dad.
I fully agree that with that type of approach, the children will come back and say thank you, and it'll come when they're ready to say it and say and really to admit that the parent was right. So that's also hard to swallow for a teenager. A lot of things I've heard for what parents do with phones is they control the Wi-Fi at home, but kids can find a workaround. And does that show trust? I'm not sure on that. What we've done is we just said no phones in the bedroom. You're not allowed to bring technology up, and I lead, and Susan and I lead by example.
Yeah.
We don't do it because it's too tempting to look at something in the middle of the night. Oh, I have an idea. I want to write something down, or a thought comes up. So we just say no to that. But I think it's important for parents just to lead by example of you're
Yes.
saying no to your children to be on the phone. It's very difficult for a child to say, well, you're saying no, but you're on your phone right now, right? So
Right.
that's a
Right.
big balance that parents need to manage. Another one I've heard a lot of is no phones at the dinner table.
Mhm.
At dinner time is a time of being with and community with your family,
Yeah.
and so don't not to be interrupted with your phone, and it's a challenge because um, it- I, I'm extremely busy. Susan's extremely busy with not only work but our personal lives, and we want to answer the phone when somebody's sending a message, regardless of who it is, grandma, friend, or a situation at work.
Right.
But we're just like, nothing's going to burn down with
Yeah.
the 20 minutes that we're away from our
Right.
phone. It'll be okay.
Yes.
And you just got to get to that mindset, and eventually we get there. But with teenagers, that's their whole world. That's a way of connecting with their friends. And really they can, if they took a pause on their phones, they'll learn to connect with their friends in a much, much better way, a more deeper connection. And that's what God is looking for, to have that deep communion with individuals.
You
I
think about
wanted
it.
to ask a bit of a personal thing of what does it mean to have happiness, or a happy in your marriage as a parent? What does that look like for you?
Yes, and I know some people, you're happy and you think, "Oh, I'm not happy, I'm joyful," and that's fine. There are places in the Bible where it says that there is joy in God's presence, that there was gladness, that there was happiness, that there was joy, and you see these words interchangeably used when there's a celebration. There's a festival in the Old
Right.
Testament, and so if that word happy bothers you, please substitute the word joy, because what I'm talking about is that joy, that happiness. When a kid grows up and they leave your home and they're an adult now, and, "Hey, what was your family like?" When they say, "I lived in a happy home," you kinda understand what that means. It means this was a home where, for the most part, I was happy to be there. Like, I was glad to be there. These were people who believed in me, who loved me, who prepared me for life, who, of course, had conflict, but they weren't yelling and throwing things at each other. They were sober, they were sober-minded, they were all those things, and that's what we want for our kids, that when they launch out of our home, they say, "I wanna be married. I wanna have children because I had such a good experience in my childhood growing up in a happy home that I want to do that myself." So that's what I mean when I say a happy home, and that happy home looks like, "Okay, Lord, I need to obey you first." I just had Gary Thomas on my podcast. He's been on Focus many times, and he does talk about sometimes we can make an idol of family, and it's like, ouch, right? We can put that family first instead of God first.
That's right.
So
Yes.
that happiness comes from, "Lord, my first allegiance is to you." So maybe I have to do something unpopular with my husband or unpopular with my kids because I am saying yes to Jesus. Like, that's
Right.
an okay thing. So
Yeah.
so that the priorities are correct. God is first, and then the marriage is the priority relationship. Everything's not around the kids because, as you and I know, the kids leave is terrible, but they leave. And then you and Susan, myself and James, we need to have a strong relationship that we just keep going. We don't fall apart when our kids
Absolutely.
leave. So
Yeah.
then that marriage is a priority. And then with the kids, that I think that you are preparing them for adulthood. And you're doing that by loving them, by providing for them, for protecting them, and then really training them, anticipating what is it that you need to know and then teaching them, because that's my job as a parent to do so. And when those things are happening, and there's gotta be a lot of fun. Like, it can't be all rules and do this and do that. It's gotta be fun, things to look forward to all the time. They don't have to be expensive things. They can be going to the park and getting a scoop of ice cream, or going to the supermarket and just getting the big gallon and taking it to the park, and everybody taking a spoon and just going having it because that's a lot cheaper. It doesn't matter, but it's things that you're having fun together. That's really important, I think, in a happy home, that your children and you as a couple have a lot of fun memories, that when you think over your life, when are my fondest memories, that you'll go back to, "Oh, remember when the kids were here? Remember when we went to that water park? Remember when we saw that zebra and it did this?" Or whatever, like, those memories need to be there.
You hit it on the nail for me, and especially when you use the story of going for an ice cream or buying a bucket at the, grocery store, a child will not remember if you're going to Starbucks, and up here in Canada, Tim Hortons. They just remember the time with their mom and dad,
Yeah.
and if there's siblings involved, that family unit. They remember the walks. As we're recording this, we're just starting into fall, and the leaves change. And one thing that we do as a family is we go and we gather leaves, and we make these videos of throwing them up in
Oh, how
the
fun.
air and like dancing at the leaves falling. And our kids remember that. And now as they're older, they're like, "Hey, fall's here. When are we gonna
Yeah,
go and do this?" Right? And
I
that
love it.
it just brings joy to our hearts because
Yeah.
that's something that we've started as a kind of a tradition that the kids wanna do. Uh, all these little things that we do as well, but, you also hit it on the head as a married couple. The priority comes with God, and then the marriage, and then the kids, and that's what brings happiness for longevity as the
Yeah.
children do move out eventually, and a married couple isn't going, "Now what do we do together?" Right? And if you've had all those things you're not asking those questions. You're like, "Hey, let's still continue this awesome journey we're on," which is really great.
I think activities, that's something that we struggle with, how many sports should you do? How many activities should you do? Because what ends up happening is you are very taxed for time. Then you have multiple children. So it's like, oh, so and so's got to be at ballet, and so and so's got to be at soccer, and so so's got to be at volleyball. We're just going to grab something really quick. Everybody's going to eat out of bags, and then we'll get home, and then you'll do your homework, and then we'll go to bed, and we'll do it again.
I'm
And
just
there's certain
tired listening to that.
Right?
Yeah,
And there are certainly seasons for these things, so I'm not saying that you can't do these things, but I do think that is the challenge of how, because you need more time, you need to be more rested, when we're tired and you've gone from place to place and then you're not as kind, you're gonna snap faster, you're gonna not be as patient, you're gonna say like, "Oh, please take the phone and leave me alone," and we've all
right.
been there, right?
Yeah,
Because you're just so tired. So, one way we solved it for us is we just everyone did the same activities. We have 3 kids. So they all played the piano and they all did martial arts and we all went at the same time. And you'll see in my book, Making Marriage Easier, we went even to go as far as, my goodness, if we're gonna be in martial arts this much, my husband and I did it too. We joined the
oh,
class because we
awesome.
were free. It
Yeah.
goes with the ice cream, buying it and eating it in the parking lot. We're always looking for a good deal. So that actually became time together and very funny instead of time apart, so anything you can do to simplify the event calendar, to participate with your kids whenever you can, and then maybe tell the children, you only can have 1 activity per year. We can't
Right.
do you can't do so many activities because look at your siblings, they're gonna do the same, and really meet about it, talk about it, but at the end of the day, you're the one who will toe and make that decision, because the truth is, for most of our kids, they're not gonna grow up and be a major league baseball player or go to, what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
gonna go be that whatever sport, ballet, whatever it is they're doing, but they will remember the time you had as a family. They will keep seeing you as
Yeah.
they grow up and grow older. So to build that relationship, keep that in mind, and maybe it means saying no to too many activities.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail, for again, and for us as a family, we did the same. Like, it was you get one choice during the school year, and as long as it doesn't interfere with school. But you hit something so well as making that conversation with the children and saying, "Okay, there's a vast array of things you wanna do, and pick one." And as a parent, that's our duty. Like, you wanna guide them, because if you give them everything and try to please them in everything, it's not gonna work. That you're as a parent gonna get burnt out, like you touched on. You're gonna be tired and, snappy, and you're never together as a family. So the kids will be like, hey, it was great that I did all these activities, but I never saw mom and dad or
Right.
my siblings.
Or my siblings.
Yeah, that's really great. It resonates with me for so many things. The activity that we do as a family is we ski, and the
Yes.
reason why we ski is because I quickly realized, Susan and I, is like, okay, we can do this for a long time with our children, but it's a captive audience on the chair. They
Right.
are with us on the chair.
They
Eventually, they're going to have to speak to us,
Yes.
and then they can go on their own. But we all meet at the bottom. We go up
I
again.
love that.
Yeah,
And
these,
then you have to be in some kind of cabin,
and then you're
close to
together
the
in the
ski, and they're
evening. Yeah.
trapped with you. They can't afford their own room, so
They're
they're trapped
trapped,
with you.
and generally, the cabin doesn't have a Wi-Fi or a
So
TV, so
great.
we're playing cards for a week. It's really,
Yes.
really incredible.
It's awesome.
Um, and I just wanted to touch on, as we close out here, is what is the greatest joy in this journey that you've seen in communicating with families and sharing your vision of what a strong, happy family is? What's the greatest joy you've seen out of that?
Oh, there are so many joys. How can we pick one, Jean-Paul? So I will say, like, there is a joy when a family comes to me when I'm speaking and they'll say, I read your book 3 years ago and we decided not to give my, 10-year-old a phone. And we're so glad because now we have this relationship and they're into sports or they love whatever it is they love. And so I love when an idea that they were presented with and they saw evidence for it and they made a change and they said that really impacted us. So that's huge to me. So I would say that when you hear of a life change, when you hear of a relationship that was mended, I remember really, I was talking to a parent group and this very strong man, came, he looked, these rugged shoulders, big guy. And he said, I've been afraid of taking the phone away at night from my teenage daughter. His daughter's probably half his size, right? And he's like, I've been afraid. But after I heard this, I'm not afraid. I'm going to collect it at night. So when we see that courage going into the parent, I think that is a really big, big, big delight for me. And just the way the Lord sets up appointments, just, like how he sets up, where am I supposed to speak? Who is supposed to be listening to this podcast right now? It's like God is weaving all this together so that we get the information we need to do that next right thing in our family. And that is so exciting.
Thank you for your time and, making the effort and going international now
Yes,
on the
go
Canadian
Canada.
broadcast. Yeah, so thank you so much. It's just been a pleasure to spend time with you again. I look forward to when we get to spend time together as a whole family, as we did last March. And I really just thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean-Paul, so much. It's been an honor.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Arlene. Check out the episode notes for how to connect with her and follow her podcast. If you wish to talk about this further, or if it brought up something that you would like to talk through, you can have a free one-time consultation with one of our registered counselors at Focus on the Family Canada over the phone. Give us a call at 1-800-661-9800 to request a consult. It's our gift to you. Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Thriving Family, a podcast from Focus on the Family Canada. If you like this episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to subscribe. If you feel led, you can make a donation at focusonthefamily.ca/podcast giving, or find the link in the episode notes. This program is available ad-free because of the generosity of our donors. Most importantly, remember that we are here for you and your family.